Hello everyone, I'm Finn Wright, and for my Genius Hour project, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the best pizza. So what are the key ingredients of a great pizza? Well, there's the dough, the fermentation, the cheese, the sauce, the toppings, and of course the cooking. So let's talk dough. What makes a pizza dough great? Well, there's some things you need to think about, such as flour type, dough hydration, yeast type, kneading method, and whether or not you're going to have oil in your dough. So how style affects dough. There are many different styles of pizza. Right here is a New Haven style pizza. It's got a crispy, almost bread-like crust. It's a low hydration dough with a lot of bread flour. Here's a New York style slice. It's a little thinner, still crispy, but soft in the crust. It's got kind of all-purpose flour, and it's a medium hydration dough. And then my personal favorite type of pizza, Neapolitan pizza, and the pizza we're going to be talking about for the rest of the presentation. This is a very soft crust, and it uses a very fine ground dough, flour, and a high hydration dough. So what makes Neapolitan dough so special? Well, it's really soft and airy with a fluffy texture, and that's due to the flour used in the dough making process, as well as the overall hydration of the dough. Neapolitan dough calls for tipo 00 flour, which is a fine ground of flour, and it also calls for a very high hydration level of around 56%. The official recipe. There's an entire association in Italy called Italian Words, I'm not even going to try and pronounce, dedicated to preserving the quality of Neapolitan pizza. The recipe calls for just 4 ingredients: water, salt, yeast, and flour. Time to ferment. What are the keys to proper dough fermentation? Well, there's the pre-ferment, the covered ferment, fermentation time, and then fermentation temperature. All things you got to think about. The science of fermentation. So there's yeast in your dough, and that yeast is going to eat the sugars in the flour, and that's going to produce carbon dioxide and ethanol, which will cause the dough to form little air pockets of gas and make it puff up. As you see here, the dough will rise as you let it ferment. The longer you let it ferment, the more gas will be incorporated in the dough. However, if you let it ferment for too long, the dough might burst and go flat. Getting cheesy. How to pick the perfect cheese. Things you're going to want to think about are the type of mozzarella, low moisture or high moisture, voice crack, how much cheese, and then parm or no parm. Go with parm. Always go with parm. Never forget the parm. The cheese situation. This is low moisture mozzarella. It's pretty terrible. It's the kind of cheese that turns orangey on the top of the pizza. You don't want it. You want to avoid it. It's really cheap. Don't buy it. Don't cheap out. This is buffalo mozzarella. It's made from the milk of buffaloes. It's a little tangier. It's all right. It's not great. Moving on, this is fior di latte mozzarella. It's very soft, very watery. It's the best type of mozzarella. Use this for your pizzas. Don't use anything else. It's a little expensive, but it's worth it. And then Parmesan, you're obviously going to want as much Parmesan as possible. Sauce it up. What to think about when making a sauce? Well, there's the types of tomatoes. Other ingredients, don't put other ingredients in your sauce. To cook or not to cook, hand crush or blended, and then seasoning. All about the red stuff. These are the kind of tomatoes you're going to want to use. They're San Marzano tomatoes. They're made in Italy. You're going to want to get them canned and peeled. They're going to come like whole, and there's going to be a little bit of water in the bottom of the can. You're going to want to pour the water out and just take the tomatoes. And then hand crushing versus stick blending. You can stick blend it if you're lazy, but it's really easy to just hand crush and it'll be a lot better if you just hand crush the sauce. And then to cook or not to cook, never cook it. It's going to cook in the oven. If you cook it beforehand, it'll turn out way too sweet and you're not going to taste any tomatoes. Toppings. No. Never. No toppings. No, I'm kidding. But there's only a few acceptable toppings on a Neapolitan pizza. These are sea salt. Make sure you get the flaky kind. Be fancy. Black pepper. It's got to be freshly ground. If you don't get it freshly ground, it doesn't taste right. Olive oil. But you have to use that fancy canister or else I'm going to judge you a lot. And basil, because it's the best green plant ever. Tastes the best. Now it's time to put the pizza in the oven. So everything you need to know and to think about when you're cooking a pizza. The oven types, wood, coal, or gas. Oven temperature, cook time, spin or not to spin, and pizza peel techniques. Oven type. Unfortunately, you really need a wood-fired oven for Neapolitan pizza dough. It's a little expensive, but on the market are less expensive, portable, at-home versions that get to the same temperature as the professional versions. So that's good. And yeah, after all that, you should have a great Neapolitan pizza. Thanks for listening. Hope that was interesting.